And what were you doing at the time?
Well, what I'd done was I knew of this quarry and I was interested in crystal, crystal quartz.
Yep.
Oh, I'm interested in other stones as well. And so I went out there to have a fossick. And it's about 6 or 7 kilometres out of Eden in a right-hand turn.
Yep.
And you go down this road. This road is opposite the Boyd Town Inn turn-off, south of Eden. So I went down this road where the quarry was, and I was fossicked for a while on the floor of the quarry. Didn't find anything. I thought, I'll clamber up all the stones they had piled up. A hill of stones.
All right.
And so I did that, and a few minutes after I'd been up the top and fossicking a bit, something made me look up. And I mean, I was really shocked to see this quite tall, man-like figure, brown figure, and very strong and bulky looking, standing looking at me some distance away.
Was it in a clearing or in the bush, or on the edge of the bush?
Well, it wasn't in the bush. It was like on the edge of a bushy area, just on the edge of it. So I was lucky to get such a good view.
But you actually saw it, you saw it from the waist up, or all of it, or?
Oh, I've seen it from more than the waist, down to about, I'd say, where the knees were.
And what happened? What did the animal do when it saw you?
Well, I don't look upon it as an animal, but anyhow, well, it was looking at me. And, when I looked up, I seen this creature looking at me. And I've never seen anything like this before. And then it just took off. But it ran.
It actually ran? It didn't walk quickly? It ran?
Yep. I mean, I only got just a glimpse of it running, because then it disappeared into the bush. And it was a crashing. There was a right crashing noise that went through the bush. Of course, that took off as well. Took off, right? And but I mean, I could hear it crashing through the bush as I left. I left as quickly as I could. I mean, I'm nearly 60. I took off as quick as I could across all these stones.
Took back off into town or back home? Or?
Oh, straight back into town, yeah. Got in, and my husband wasn't home at the time, and I was sitting, I made a cup of tea, and I'm thinking over it. Oh, God, what was it, But I'll give you a description. It was a good 6 feet tall, I'd say it was more than 6 feet tall, because by the size that I've seen it was, and the distance I was away, it had to be, yeah.
Oh, how far away were you? Can you estimate sort of in?
Well, we live on, our block is 100, I can only tell you in feet, 143 feet deep. And it would be about twice that. But I have good long vision. And so although I couldn't honestly say that I've seen its eyes or its mouth as such, I could see pretty well all of it, And it was quite a darkish brown, but not black. But the main impression was that it was a big man-like creature. I'd call it a man, really, not a creature. And
what makes you think that way? Just
well, I mean, it was standing upright. It was big and brown, but the thing is, it was bulky.
When you say bulky, was it muscly or just you just saying?
Muscly, but it was also thick-set. Not like flabby fat. It was thick-set, I could see that. And I don't know, it's just, well, I mean, it had a head, body, and shoulders and arms, and standing upright. So, I mean, to me, that's a man-like figure, isn't it?
Sure, yeah. Can you describe, you mentioned before its neck. What was unusual about its neck?
Oh, well, it was a thick neck. There wasn't much distance between where its head was and where its shoulder started. It virtually was almost all one, the head and the neck.
Did you get an impression of the face, or you mentioned?
No, see, I wasn't close enough. No.
What about arms?
Definitely couldn't see any hairs.
You got an impression of its arms? Were they short or long, or?
Oh, reasonably long. Certainly, yeah.
They seemed to go to the waist or shorter?
Oh, a bit longer than that.
Did you see hands or just get an impression?
No, I didn't see hands, and as I say, I wasn't that close to get a lot of detail, and I mean, I couldn't see it, if I can be blunt and say I couldn't see his chest or nipples or anything, or any of its private parts. And also, being startled, you know, you're in shock, so I didn't get a chance to study it.
Was it holding anything when it was standing there?
No, not holding anything.
Just arms down by its side, or
Yeah, and it was facing me,
sort of full frontal?
standing, facing me, looking my way, and then its head moved, and then it turned and ran. Didn't run with its back to me. It sort of, if you can imagine it turned halfway and ran. It didn't turn completely round.
Did you see it moving off through the bush, or just as it moved, you moved?
Yeah, I didn't see it through the bush, but just when it started, you know, and then I could hear it. And as I was leaving, as quick as I could still hear it.
There was sort of what, crashing sounds through the bush?
Yeah, well, it was quite, that's the only way I can describe it.
The area that you saw it, is it a well-known quarry in Eden? I mean, it's...
Oh, yes. I mean, they get stones from there. I don't think they go every day there. But it's I wouldn't call it exactly isolated, but I mean, there's no homes adjacent to that area.
So it sort of backs onto pretty thick bush, I would imagine.
It's a clearing.
Sort of prior to that, had you ever heard of any stories around there from any of the locals?
Well, I hadn't. No, I hadn't heard anything. But when I started telling a few friends, I mean, I was a bit worried about who I told, because I thought they're never going to believe this. And then a couple that I told, Mr. and Mrs. Fairweather, he was actually an elder of the church. He said right away, oh, I says, I know it's a bit hard to believe, you know, but it's the honest truth. He says, oh, we believe you. And then they both said, oh, our son's seen the same thing. And he was about 10 years old at the time, so I put it around about 1980. And where he'd seen this, because I described, he said, yeah, just like that. He said their son was on the north side of Eden, just out of Eden, up the hill a bit. And he was on the road where there's a water tower. I mean, the water tower's still there. And when he seen it, and he got a terrible fright, and he ran all the way home, and they said he was too shaken when he told them about it, you know? Yeah.
What other reactions did you get when you told people, or you just didn't mention it to too many people?
Well, there was about 4 I mentioned it to that were, you know, really nice friends, and one of them, he said, oh, yeah, you know, he said, he says there was people down in, I've written it in my letter, investigating about that a good few years ago, but that was before we went to Eden in 1991 on the Sunday. Who or whatever it was had been there before I clambered up the hill, because I never heard anything. You know, I never heard any crackling, and I mean, it was quiet. I would have noticed that. I never heard anything. And come to think of it, I didn't even hear any birds twittering. It was really